I trust the truth within me is the affirmation of the day. My videos used to perform better, but were not more truthful. My metric for how they did was based on how they were received externally, not how deeply they reached people or how cathartic it was for me in creating them. It wasn't based on how honest I was, how I distilled my lived experience into words and didn't filter the life out of them. I'd overfiltered in the past and stripped the beneficial mineral content from my work, usually to appeal to brands, to make money and income, not trusting that they would have the taste for something more dynamic. So I kept it simple, too simple. So as a viewer, I looked back at the creator and barely saw myself. The artist in me was unsatisfied. The artist sought more of a spotlight over the marketer, and the artist eventually got her way. Her way was the way of clarity, not through filtering, but through purifying, opening the flow of expression for myself. She wrote things that unblocked chambers in my being that were needing activation, who knew that truth was the key. Speaking truth, your truth to yourself, is most important. To do it kindly but consciously helps normalize the process continually. Eventually, your taste for truth becomes so great that little compares. You trust the truth within you. Hey you, I'm Anissa. Today's video is for anyone who wants to make art and share more creatively and expressively and authentically with the world, who feels like sometimes they're creating things that are a little stale and there's just something missing, a little bit of, truthfulness. Not that they're not good, but they're just lacking in honesty. They're not aligned with what's in your heart space and operating from that place. And I've experienced that a lot personally, and so I'd love to speak to that and how it arose for me this week. Most of my videos are reflections and stories and sharing from my own lived experience, as I believe we are all each other's healers and we provide a mirror to each other to be able to see ourselves more clearly. So anything that I share with you hopefully gives you a glimmer into more of yourself. If you enjoy this video, definitely hit that like button and subscribe. Share what you enjoyed also in the comments so that I can get some direction on what's resonating. I'm uploading videos every single week on Wednesdays. This week I am making content a little bit more in advance because I'm heading to Mexico to visit my mom for a week. And saw the laundry behind me as I begin packing shortly. How do we feel satisfaction with our creative work when we're told that we should make things that are good or well received or perform well on social media or are externally praised, but that's not actually the truth? Because another part of us is involved in sharing and deeming things, and that part of us is us. That part of us is the truth that wants to be expressed through us. It's a challenging time when there's so much emphasis on performing well and meeting the algorithm. And I think a bigger part of us as creative people, we're all creative people if you're on this channel and you're watching, is to learn to share things in a way that resonates with the inner you, that unlocks a key within you. This topic became relevant to me this week. I was working a modeling gig and it was a very simple e-commerce shoot and we had an hour lunch break, and during that break I ate with the fellow creative employees, and then I took a walk around the block and listened to a podcast. One of my favorites is Tara Brach. She's a mindfulness leader and teacher, and she has an amazing podcast. She uploads every single week meditations and mindfulness talks, and I deeply enjoy them. And who she was interviewing was Rosemary Watola Traumer, who is a poet, and she was sharing poetry hugely, especially when her son passed away and took his own life. It was a deeply healing experience for her to share during that time, and what motivated her was really just being honest with what was on her heart. She didn't have to label her work as good or bad. All she had to do was be truthful. And it resonated with me really deeply that the key to making good work, good art, that's for you, is how truthful you're being in that work and in that sharing, how honest you're being with what's on your heart and what needs to come through you and what needs to be expressed for you to listen to. Not really for the external world to validate or to tune into or how it performs for them. And if it does, that's great, but more deeply, if it's what's needing to come through you and out of you, to be expressed into the world, to be honored. And I looked back on a lot of works that I had created in the past, and a lot of them that I didn't deem as being really good was really because I'd over-filtered them. I'd really created them with the intention to be more marketable, maybe on social media, and they performed better on social media, but it maybe didn't satisfy the artist in me. And if you've ever gone through a creative process of really wanting to see the artist in you come through and really wanting to see your expansiveness and your eccentricity and your expressiveness and your authenticity, maybe it's because you're not willing to take the risk to show more of your heart to yourself. And there's work that you can do privately. It doesn't always have to be for public sharing. And this day and age, it feels like we just have to follow that trajectory to be able to monetize and capitalize on our creative work. But that's not the truth. Our creativity is always working to flow through us. And the more that we honor it, we honor the life force energy that wants to just flow through us, the more happiness, fulfillment, wholeness we get to experience on an internal level, regardless of if we're capitalizing on it. And that's just a construct that the external world has created. And it's unfortunately hurt a lot of people. It's opted a lot of people out of the game. They're just like, I'm not an artist. I'm not a creative person. Therefore, I'm not going to participate because I don't think I could ever share this or I could monetize it. And neither of those are important. Actually, what's important is that you're truthful with yourself. And that's why I always try to share some writing with you or encourage you to go down the journaling process or the singing, dancing, expressing process, because what you'll find is the truth that lives within you that's always guiding you and working to support you and moving forward. Subconscious and the truth that's kind of just like lingering there, because it's just interesting what you begin to notice when you notice you're noticing. So there might be signs and synchronicities. There might be repeated lessons that we're gaining through particular relationships. And the more that we become the awareness and the observer and the detective of our lives, the more interesting life becomes, the more magical life becomes, the more you become the hero in the story of your life. And you playing that protagonist, you finally playing that protagonist will also be so much better. In comedy, there's the person who gets to be funny in characters, and then there's the person who's the straight man who's the anchor for things, so that you can see the disparity between what's really funny and then what's like a normal person. Well, none of us are normal people. All of us are characters. All of us are deeply expressive, deeply interesting, and the unlocking of that usually comes with the unlocking and the willingness to look at the truth within ourselves. Healing, self-work, self-inquiry, going to therapy. All of these things are really supportive to us being more honest and more truthful. They all support each other. I wanted to share this emphasis on how can you be more truthful in anything creatively that you're doing and anything that you're uncovering, because I think it helps shift us away from the goodness metric of this is performing well because the algorithm says so, because it's getting likes, because it's getting comments, because external person thinks that it's cool. The only thing that matters is really you being more truthful with yourself in your creative process, because through that process you'll feel so much wholeness and fulfillment. Through that process you'll find so much more inner power that you didn't even know existed within you, and it continues to reveal itself and go on and flow into others in a more powerful way. That's been my experience of a lot of people. Maybe I was more popular historically, but now when I'm more truthful, the level at which it reaches people is much more deeply. And if that's been the case for you, definitely let me know in the comments. But my understanding is that I have a lot of people who have a sincere level of love for me because of the love that I honor for myself. And I think that's a really beautiful way to operate and move through life. And it's not the common path. And so if it feels like, this is not for me, Nisa, maybe it will be for you someday, and that's okay. Some questions to ask yourself, I noted down. Our worth is not in our creation. Ultimately, our worth is within us, right? We are so worthy, and we're just doing the exploration of what's in there. We're the ones who are just the curious humans exploring the inner soul, the inner self, and what we discover in there is just like bottomless. When you create work, ask yourself, does it scare you a little bit? Does it feel like it's really what's on your heart and in your mind? And is it new to you? Is it more truthful? Not, is it better? Is it good? the more that you continue to lean into that spectrum of things, the more fun you'll have. I really deeply enjoyed this podcast episode, so I'll try to remember to share the link in the description of this video. If you enjoyed this video, if you found it helpful, like for some more mindful motivation, for some more creative wellness content, and I appreciate you being here. Sending you so much love, so much more compassion as you create things, as you do self-inquiry and honor more of yourself in this week ahead. And I'm sending you so much love.